Hey, it's Lowry Smith of the Commander Smiths here with a Kadena Slinking Sorcerer morph deck, essentially. Um, Kind of got re-inspired to build it again with Duskmorn coming out, or that came out. And so let's kind of look how I rebuilt it because I built this years ago, 2019. Yes. So kind of came back to it. But Kadena there is one in a black and a green and a blue for a 3/3 Naga Wizard. The first face down creature spell you cast each turn costs 3 less to cast, and whenever a face down creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to draw a card. So it's a little bit of cost reduction, some draw, and it's kind of how it goes. So let's take a look at this deck. Most of it is just going to be kind of control-y, little puttery, but we'll go with this. All right, random assortment. Let's go. Unblinking Bleb. This one gets to morph up, and you get the scry 2 whenever it or another card morphs. So good little card selection engine there. We have Cunning Evasion. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you can return it to your hand, which allows you to kind of reset your morph cards if they've already flipped, or just cast more morph creatures. Preordained for that card selection. Brainstorm, same thing. Undercity Sewers. Surveil lands are sweet. Love them, like them. Do it. Hashtag Team Forest Walk. Thanks, Cole. We have Trail of Mystery that goes and gets a land into your hand, and then also a little bit of a boost there. But there for the land, Soul Ring for that ramp. We have Chrome Shell Crab that is to exchange creatures. Yeah, so this it's a beautiful card. Older foils, always beautiful. And but also just get the best creature on the board, and they get a little crabby. Roshan Hidden Magister. This one is basically there to draw a card and lose a life whenever a permanent you control is turned face up. So that's there for that card draw. Just more and more of that. Void Mage Prodigy there for the counter spells, and sacrificing wizards allow you to do that with Kadena, but there are a lot of kind of morph creatures in here that are wizards that also kind of deal with counterspelling. And I hate counterspells, so I hate this. Swamp exploration, putting more lands into play. You're drawing more, cantripping more, and so you're going to be putting more lands into play. Nervous Gardener allows you to go get a land, put in the hand, another cheap, um, you know, basically anything that you can have as a morph card that you want in your deck, you do that. That's kind of what that is. Top for that selection, Island. Uga's Mastery allows you to, whenever you cast a colorless creature spell, you are manifesting the top card, which allows you to draw a card off a Kadena, and then you can do whatever. But that's for the most part. Heroes Plaza or Plaza Heroes, X-Men. Another Surveil Land, Scroll of Fate, manifest a card from your hand. So face down creature comes into play, draw off a Kadena. Horizon of Progress, just a land, a Fettle Alchemist that will untap a creature or an artifact, which is really good. Also just that morph. So something that you like. Mischievous Quainar, that is going to copy target instant or sorcery spell and choose new targets for. So it's just a fun little deal there. You have Ixidor Reality Sculptor there to give face down creatures +1/+1 and a cheaper face up. That's a great card for that. Death in Heaven's pretty cool. Target player mills 2 cards and then exiles their graveyard, and then do it a second time, and then put all creature cards exiled with Death to Heaven into the battlefield face down. Draw. Under your control, you're a 2, then they're 2/2 Cybermen. That part doesn't matter. You can still flip them up if they have morph. But if you're exiling other people's graveyards, they probably won't have morph, but still dope. We got a little bit of Temple of False God and Reliquary Tower. Um, for those lands, you got Forsaken Monument. You have plenty of colorless mana, so that's doubled. Your colorless creatures are going to have 2/2. So the more face down is colorless, they'll get that boost, and then you get the gain life off of casting as well. Prismatic Vista, Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, Dense Foliage. I love this card as a protection spell for if you are not casting like instants and sorceries as removal. Dense Foliage is for you. Creatures cannot be the target of spells. It still allows abilities, so morph will still take effect. So it's just a good way to protect your stuff and not affect you. Stratus Dancer, that's one of those more face up, counter target instant or sorcery spell. Grazilax Illithid Scholar. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you can return it to your hand, very much like Cunning Evasion. But if you have a creature deal damage to a player, combat damage, you get to draw a card. So three total, more than likely in a four pod. That's a great way to do that kind of stuff. Say Toru the Infiltrator. That is there to draw more cards when a card comes into play for free. So draw. Elven Farsight, creature heavy decks in green should be running this. This is the green ponder, but scry 3, reveal a top card. If it's a creature, draw it. Overgrown Zealot, just that mana to it helps you put down face down creatures and just fixing and stuff like that. Guardian Project, whenever any creature, non-token creature ETBs, you get to draw a card. Karasai, High Priest. You can pay the activation, sacrifice another creature, manifest the top card of your library. It's just to have more face down creatures. Orokai Soul Reaver, 5/4. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure and manifest the top card of that player's graveyard. So if you go 1, 2, 3, you get to manifest 1, 2, 3 and draw 1, 2, 3 with Kadena. So pretty cool in that regard. Ninjutsu as well. So returning some of that morph. Crystal Vein for that land. Fabled Passage. That came from the pipes. Enchantment. When it ETBs, manifest dread twice. So that's two face down creatures. And then whenever they ETB, you draw a card. Any face down creatures, you draw cards. So just more Kadena effects. You're going to draw a bunch of cards. This one is Riptide Entrancer. This one is a stealing. If it deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. If you do, gain control of target creature that player controls. So I'm just stealing stuff, moving stuff around in this deck. It's annoying. Words of Wind. Whenever you draw a card, pay 1. You, yourself, and all your opponents get to return a permanent to their hand. So that's just resetting a morph card. Forest, Augur of Autumn, being able to cast morph cards off the top is a great way to do it. Sylvan Library to set the top, but also just card advantage. Will Bender, when it gets turned face up, you get to change the target of a target spell with a single target. Just moving stuff around. The Great Henge, drawing cards, and ramping you, being really awesome. Dryad of the Elysian Grove, another one of those, put more lands into play, and then the colors don't matter. Huntwood Shrieker's pretty cool. This was probably the one that made me want to rebuild. But whenever it attacks, manifest dread, and then you can pay 2, reveal target face down permanent. If it's a creature card, you may turn it face up. And so that's cheap face up ability card. Eudora Grave Gardener is pretty cool. Whenever one of your morph creatures die, it comes back as a forest face down, and you can redo that morph thing. So Forest. Panaptic Projector. Tap the next face down creature. Spell costs 3 less. And then turning it face up, you get to double those triggers. Temple of Mystery, Temple of Deceit, Winding Canyons for that. If you give it haste, you can reduce that cost by 3 each turn. If you have more flash and stuff like that, not haste. Kadena's Silencer, morph it up. It turns face up, counter all abilities your opponents control. You got Mana Maze. Players can't play spells that share color with the spell last played this turn. Morph spells, Manifest Dread, all that stuff is face down and colorless. Temple of Malady. This is Nantuku Vigilante, and that when it flips up, destroy an artifact or enchantment. Llanowar Wastes for another land. So this one, for me, the deck is probably a little slower than what I normally like doing. But if that's just probably based off of the play group, it's really mana intensive. But I think if your games are really a lot like slower, more casual, I think Morph can go do really well for you. Threats around every corner. Enchantment. When it ETBs, Manifest Dread. Whenever a face down permanent you control enters, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped. And then we have Glaring Flesh Raker. It just sounds so close to being gross. But whenever you cast a colorless spell, a morph spell, create an 0/1, And whenever another colorless creature ETBs, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So cast a morph, you create one of those, 1, 2 damage for everybody. Way to be. You got an island, emergent zone just for that flash speed at any point, burgeoning to put lands into play more often, underground river, void mage apprentice that flips up to counter target spell, 1,000 winds when it turns face up, return all tapped creatures to their owner's hand. You have Seedborn Muse to untap stuff that just it's there for that ramp. You get a lot more land to flip cards up whenever you want. Anox Survivalist is there to destroy artifacts or enchantments when it faced up. Foreboding Landscape, Island, Crystal Shard, pay 1, target one of your morph things, return it back to your hand. And so it's just resetting that morph. Gift of Doom, you sacrifice one of your creatures to give Kadena Death Touch and Indestructible, but just another, it's a protection card for morph for sure. Secret Plans, face down creatures get +0/+1, and whenever it's turn faced up, something is turn face up, you get to draw another card. All is dust, your morph spells are colorless, so sacrifice everything else. Swamp. Vesuvian Shapeshifter, the clone of the morphs. Guy's Cradle, because I'm a dickhead. Ugin, the spirit dragon, he comes down. Everybody's sacking everything that's not colorless. It's a way to be. Alchemist Refuge for that flash. Bolus Citadel, just casting spells off the top, and then you can pay 3 life to morph things down from the top. So you don't have to cast it face up. It can be face down and just 3 mana. Command Tower, Prof's Edict Memory. If you're drawing a lot of cards, it gets a lot of 1/1 counters on your stuff. Grim Haruspex, morph. If one of your creatures die, non-token creatures die, you get to draw a card. Cure, Great Glass Spinner. Kind of target or the first spell whenever it targets any of your stuff. So kind of a secondary dense foliage. You have Maya Coast. I don't normally use the pain lands, especially in 3-color decks, but since colorless works in this deck, I go with it. Reflecting Pool, Disruptive Pit Mage, another one of those wizards. This one can tap to counter target spell unless they pay 1. We have Oblivious Bookworm, 2/3 at the beginning of your end step. You may draw a card. If you do, discard a card unless a permanent entered the battlefield face down under your control. So just a draw. Teferi's Ageless Insight. Whenever you draw a card, draw another card. Underground Mortuary, Surveil Land, Glitch Interpreter. It's just when you're dealing combat damage to opponents, drawing cards. Delighted Halfling, just some cheap ramp. Equilibrium. Whenever you successfully cast a creature spell, pay 1, and you can return target creature to its owner's hand. That's you or them, whatever you want. It's when you're casting free creatures, it's pretty nice. Forest and Birds of Paradise for that cheap, cheap ramp. Yeah. So the deck wise, I have enjoyed it, but I've enjoyed it in the past as well. So I'm not keeping it around as long. I'm probably going to be killing it after this video here. It has been slow. I feel like maybe a little bit more like overrun effects or, Beastmaster Ascension style things that are always just going to beef up my colorless creatures probably feels like the way to go. But I didn't do that. So that's where we're at. If you have a morph deck, let me know what you think about it in the comments. That'd be great. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully, who'd you build it with or whatever. All right. Have a good night. Bye.